Okay, here we go, part 3. This is relative to the all-important book proposal. Again, we're talking about the traditional publishing vertical and how we get the attention of agents and publishers. The remarks I'm going to make on the book proposal relate to both agents and publishers. The first proposal that you are going to send in is obviously the one to help you get the agent. Once you have the right agent, then moving forward, book proposals are still critically important. But instead of going to the agent, because you already have an agent, the agent is going to use your book proposal to approach publishers to help get a publishing contract. The best book proposals I submit to you have 6 parts, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about each of those 6 parts. The first part of any good proposal is the cover letter. Never more than 300 words, so you're talking about a page and a half, roughly, never more than 2 pages. But it has to be the best damn 200, 300 words you've written, at least in regard to this particular book proposal. It is what I call the elevator speech, and that's a term that perhaps some of you have heard before. If not, it's a cute, quick little story. The elevator speech revolves around the chance encounter where you rush into a building to catch an elevator. You've got an interview with a potential agent or publisher, and you get on the elevator, and the office you're going to is on the 30th floor, and into the elevator walks the agent or the publisher that you want to pitch. Well, now you have that person, a captive audience for the elevator ride to the 30th floor. What would you say in that limited time frame until both of you step off the elevator on the 30th floor that would convince them to hire you to push this book forward? That's what you want to put in the cover letter. The cover letter has got to say as succinctly and as well as you can possibly manage it, the who, what, when, where, why, and how this book is important and why it should be published. It is, again, got to be just the most important synthesis of this project. Think about it. It is your first impression relative to this project, and as they say, you get one chance to make the first impression. So if you have this opportunity, what is it that you should put down in this cover letter that is going to catch the attention of the potential agent or publisher and cause them to take an action, which is to converse with you and or your agent in regard to turning this into a deal. That is part 1, the cover letter. The second part of a good proposal is the chapter outline. Now here I have to stop and make a distinction between fiction and nonfiction. In a proposal for a book of fiction, you must have the entire manuscript completed before proposing the project. Why? Well, pretty simple. In fiction, it's obviously your idea, your project, your baby. No one but you knows where this is going to end up. So the publisher, the agent, in order for them to gain a clear understanding of where this book is going to go and how it's going to end up, they've got to see the whole thing. Nonfiction is a little less stringent in terms of its requirements. You do not have to have a complete nonfiction manuscript by the time at the proposal stage. You could have roughly 20 or 30% of it is a good gauge done at the proposal stage. Why? Well, because it's nonfiction, we do know where it's going to end up. If you're writing about a historical event or it's a biography, well, obviously we know what happened in those events and to that person. So there's no mystery as to where this book is going to end. In any case, have a complete chapter outline. If it's fiction, give them a chapter outline for every chapter in the book. And by outline, I mean chapter titles. You don't have to have, a paragraph about every chapter, just basic chapter titles and maybe one sentence to describe that chapter title. Same thing in nonfiction. Have your outline complete and ready to go. That's part 2. Part 3 are the author's credentials, and these are very, very important. This is why you are the person who is best equipped to write this book and represent this concept. Now, if you happen to have background and experience in what it is that you're writing about, that's great. Be sure to emphasize that and talk about why you're qualified to discuss nuclear power theory. You have a PhD from Notre Dame in nuclear engineering. If, however, you have no experience, then the worst thing you can do is try to manufacture experience. Never pump up your credentials without without warrant, and certainly never lie about what you've done or where you've been and why you're qualified to write this book. Passion is also important. If you're writing a cookbook for vegans and you're only new to becoming a vegan, and yet you have these wonderful ideas about some terrific recipes that would benefit those who have chosen that path, describe why you're writing this book and your passion and newfound love for doing it this way. But talk about yourself, talk about your background, tell us, where you grew up and where you went to school. It's a resume process, and add to the resume ideas and thoughts about why you were qualified to write this book. Again, no more than 2 pages. The fourth part of the proposal is something that is critically important, and hardly anyone ever does. I will wager that even though I'm now going to tell you what this important part is, that probably half of you will do it and the other half will not. And if you don't do it, you'll miss a terrific opportunity to promote your book. It is the marketing analysis. And what do I mean by that? Well, just as you did some research at the library or online to find out about agents, now you're going to do some research at the library and or online about books that have been published in your particular market space. So go online, go to the library, and find 15 or 20 books that have been published in the recent past. I would say no more than 5 years. Maybe out to 10 years, depending upon the strength and the popularity of the title. And say, the following books are similar to my book, and they were published successfully, and they sold X number of copies. If you can find well-known titles, add that to the list and say, my book, I'm aiming to be in this category and as popular as some of these best-selling books. And then add to that, after you list the titles, where you think your book is going to be sold. What is the market for this book? Publishers want to know that. They want to know what you know about your potential market space and where they could sell the book. So if I could use myself as an example, I've been doing some military nonfiction in the past couple of years, and I wrote 2 books published by St. Martin's Press, part of Macmillan, on Vietnam. And in my marketing analysis right up front, I said, there are 2.5 million living Vietnam veterans. If I can only convince 1% of them to buy this book, we'll have a successful selling of this title. And so, in addition to Vietnam veterans, I added those components of the market that are always buyers of good history and good military nonfiction, people who want to read about the Vietnam War, so on and so forth. I also said that I would be able to help the publisher market this in some non-traditional areas, such as with veterans organizations. I belong to the VFW, the American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, Vietnam Veterans of America, and I have contacts in all of those groups. If you have contacts, mention those contacts and where you think the book might be successfully sold. The marketing analysis. Help the publisher out. You help the publisher out, he or she will be more inclined to work with you and consider giving you a contract. Part 5, this is more appropriate for nonfiction. Send in two sample chapters. Again, with fiction, you're going to send in the whole manuscript. So that's part 5, the whole manuscript, for those of you who are writing fiction. For those of you who are writing nonfiction, send in 2 sample chapters so the agent and or the publisher can see your writing style, how you approach the material, and don't make them consecutive chapters, not chapters 1 and 2 or 7 and 8. Make them like chapters 3 and 12, or so they get a sense of where the whole book is headed. Again, using myself as an example, my first major nonfiction title, my book proposal was 96 pages long. But 60 pages of that roughly were 2 sample chapters. Now, part 6, again, critically important. I'm going to tell you about this part 6, but I'll wager that even fewer than half of you will actually do it, and that'll be too bad, because it's something that will put you head and shoulders above your competition. Here it is. We live in a digital society, and those people who are in the book business, even though they're into the published word, they have so many submissions to look at and so many potential books to publish. I find it's much easier to get their attention if you make a digital connection with them. And what do I mean by that? Submit a video clip with your proposal. Again, an example from my past. My first book, hold on a second, if you can see this, it will glare there. This book is called Black Horse Riders, and it is a book about Vietnam that I published with St. Martin's Press, and it's about a group of men who, in March of 1970, in the middle of the jungle, Vietnam, up by the Cambodian border, pulled off one of the most amazing rescues I've ever heard about. I think anyone's ever heard about, and certainly one of the greatest rescue operations of the entire Vietnam War. Well, after they did this marvelous deed, unfortunately the Army lost all the records of this particular battle, and it took many years to resurrect them. Long story short, it ended up in it ended up with the men who were involved receiving the decorations, the military decorations, that they had deserved like 35 years after they had first been nominated for them. But better late than never. So to sort of make up for this oversight, the Department of the Army arranged with the White House to invite these men to a special ceremony in the Rose Garden of the White House, where President Obama, early in his first term, presented these men with a very prestigious decoration for their unit, and their story got told. Well, good for me, the White House press office put together a video of this event and put it up on YouTube, and I was able to snatch that URL from YouTube with this wonderful video of this presentation in the Rose Garden and stick it onto my proposal. So in a very in a very vivid way. It looked as if the White House was sponsoring the publication or telling of this story. Now, you may or may not be so lucky, but even if you're not, there's nothing preventing you from making a video. It's not that expensive these days to hire a videographer and put together a 30-second promo. It's called a book trailer. And if you go to YouTube right now, these days, you can see thousands of them. People who have put together little video clips relative to their book projects. And this is what you want to do. And you want to do this consistent with putting your proposal together and submitting your proposal to the potential agent and the publisher. Last but not least, now that you've got the 6 components that I've mentioned to you, the cover letter, the chapter outline, the author's credentials, the marketing analysis, the sample chapters or the whole manuscript for fiction, and the digital component, I'm going to take it one step further. Instead of sending it in the traditional word processed fashion, I would highly recommend that you put a visual presentation, a visual proposal together. I happen to be using these days PowerPoint, and although there are other programs that are just as good. And instead of submitting a Word document to my agent and publishers these days, I submit a PowerPoint proposal. Again, it is video, it is demonstrative, it tells a story, it puts some color and graphics around your idea, and it's a much more powerful way of getting an idea across. So I would highly recommend that to you. All right, I think we'll take one more quick break and then we'll move on to some other topics, primarily self-publishing. Be right back.